I feel like there's also a new camp coming about where you have people like us who start streaming, who start doing vlogs, and they blow up. And now the new narrative is, well, you don't actually have to go to college, which for some people is true. You know, you don't have to go to college. You don't have to invest so much time and money into school to be successful. You can do other things, but even in that, you have this watered down workforce where you're not always going to be the one to blow up. And it's like wherever you turn, there's so many people already doing the same thing that you're doing. And in terms of STEM, I haven't heard much about STEM recently in the past few years because I've been out of academia. So have you guys heard a collective, push for STEM in the more recent years?
There's definitely still a push for STEM, man. Like I mentioned, this year
Hmm.
I've done over 25 talks to different groups, all about promoting STEM and talking about my career journey. And these are people who, they're in the States, they're on the west coast of Canada, on the east coast of Canada, they're in the city of Toronto, in smaller cities close by, all over the place. There is a big push for STEM. And one of the reasons that is because we're starting to see, definitely with the pandemic, how scientific information impacts people's daily lives. And I've always thought that's exactly what forensic science does. Because, like using forensic science, we could figure out, who would have acted in these particularly malicious ways and who is responsible for them. That's a big impact on people's lives because some people, they have this idea that they would never get caught or maybe they could avoid any repercussions for their actions. And some of those people, do end up getting caught based on forensic science. But, look at what we're doing now, like definitely here in the city of Toronto, there's a number of restrictions in place to help and limit the spread of the virus that causes COVID-19. And that's all because of science. We keep on impacting our lives with science all the time. If our lives are going to get more digital, it just means that these big giants who control information, people like Facebook and Google in particular, they're going to have to get much, much better at using that information to continue to make money, and somehow they're going to have to balance that with the ethical requirements of the field. We need people who have different ideas about STEM to come in and see how we could better do that, how we could better handle things. And of course, outside of just working in this profession, I think everybody should have some level of comfort with STEM because, personally, I could talk about one particular example really quickly.
Hmm.
Personally, I want people who are working in these different sectors to understand STEM because I had an issue when I was living in St. Kitts with my electricity bill. It was way higher than it should have been. And I was trying to explain as best as I could to these customer service people, like, it's actually impossible for my bill to have been this high. It is a mistake. In order for it to have been this high, the example that I used was that I was living with a roommate at the time. I was saying I would have had to clone myself. Human cloning, not currently something that can be done. I'd have had to clone myself twice.
Wow.
And I would have had to clone my roommate twice. I'd have to have bought two more additional appliances for every single appliance that we have in the house. And we'd have had to been using them at the same time every single time. That's how this bill could have been tripled.
Wow.
And they could not understand that. It was like, this guy thinks he's so smart, and I got really pissed at that point. But
Mm.
if people understand mathematics at the very least, then
Yeah.
they could just look at the bill and be like, it's true. There's no way he could have tripled his usage in 1 month. Like, that's just unlikely. I mean, we're not even saying doubled, you know? So,
Even
yeah, I
without
hope that, yeah, I hope that people outside of STEM can just have some comfort level with understanding scientific information, mathematics, just so that, we can relate better to each other.
even without math, I believe that just looking at the past couple bills and looking at this bill, you can see, well, this is really strange. Just look at the chart. If that spike is a mistake, and that's without even using math.
Math and logic are they kind of go hand in hand. So I think just improving your math skills will improve your ability to have some logic. Because that's what you just said is a logical statement, and what science said is about using math. And if they have neither, then you know.
I mean, they're doing, not to knock them, but they're doing customer service. They're not really looking at, data or trends. They're just trying to help customers and or help the business.
And that was my thing, It was like, can I please speak to somebody who's an engineer? Like I actually said that, and they were like, they put me on to the guy who was in charge of customer service. Ended up talking to him, and I was like, so what's your background then? Do you even understand what I'm saying? And he was like, well, I came into the business reading meters. And I was like, see, this is what you used to do. You used to read meters. Like, how could you fucking understand what I'm telling you? I mean, I was so pissed. And I still had to pay. Well, I didn't actually pay the money because I felt like, it was my ethical responsibility to hold on to this point. But my dad was like, dude, you see this balance? It's on my property. I'm going to actually pay this bill. I'm going to set up a payment arrangement to do that. And I was like, fine, but, I'm telling you, something is wrong. But yeah, these things happen. And it's because, maybe I expect too much of people. But I feel like if you're going to be in a position, where you have to interact with people, based on data, based on their experiences, it's good to have a background knowledge in these areas because it could help you better relate to people.
I'm starting
So
to
what
understand.
I'm hearing is it's good when you go to college, get a math degree, and then work in McDonald's. That's what I'm hearing.
No. I hearing that
That's a joke, I joke.
I know, like back in UVA, there were psychology majors doing science classes and they didn't know why. There were science majors doing psychology courses that they didn't know why. And I think this speaks to the why. Why would I need to know how to be logical about how I'm thinking? Well, this is why. Because you could have a job doing one thing, then something else comes up that's totally out of your field. And instead of feeling uncomfortable and out of place, you can actually apply a little bit of what you learned to say, well, I can help you now. Even though I'm doing customer service, I understand that this doesn't make any sense and I'll try to help you out with that. So, it makes sense now having these degrees that make you dabble in other things because now you can understand where someone else is coming from.
Yeah, I think colleges should promote more multidisciplinary academics because even in like my job, right, we have disease epidemiologists, we have injury epidemiologists, we have behavioral health epidemiologists, and a lot of times, for instance, when I was working in behavioral health, we worked a lot of times with the injury team because injury and behavioral health do have some overlap. For instance, if we have a self harm ideation or something like that. But on the other hand, some of the fields, some of the epidemiological fields don't cross over. So, like for instance, injury and disease, we can't really find ways to work together because there's very rare that we will find something that will cause you to have an injury because of a disease. But the reason I'm bringing that up is just because before I started working for them, a lot of the different groups did not interact at all. It's only recently that they started trying to have a push to be more multidisciplinary and have more dynamic research. So I think that's another push. Besides just the quantitative, qualitative push, there's also the push for trying to diversify and look at multidisciplinary ways of looking at research. I think that's something that maybe even colleges could start doing too.
That makes a lot of sense.